Hello and welcome to the Chaos and Happy Sunday. It is now December the 29th. So it is 29th or is it the 30th? 29th. It's the 29th. So it is almost the end of the year, just a couple of days left, and 2024 will be over. So I've got my handy dandy little bullet journal that I've been kind of keeping track of things in over the course of the year, and I thought for this video I would just go over some of the cool highlights of the year. If you saw my last video, you saw that I went over all my markets for 2024. So if you're looking specifically for market information, that'll be in that video. I went over what my best sellers were, how much I made, what my goals were, which markets stood out, and which ones were kind of duds, and my thoughts on those and why they turned out the way they did. And I think I can't remember now if I went over my plans for this upcoming year. I might have mentioned a little bit, but I'm going to do another video at the beginning of the year in January to kind of go over my goals and aspirations and how I hope 2025 will go. So keep an eye out for that one. That one will be fun too. But this one's just going to be sort of, what did I do all year? So I started in February keeping track of all the things that I made throughout the year. So I went back through all my photos and had to go through and find everything I did in January. Well, January to like the first half of February, and listed all that here. But then after that, for each week, I would list just on that day, like what did I make that day. So yesterday, I spent some time going through this book and compiling all of that into lists so I can give you guys some interesting factoids of what I did throughout the year. And I have that listed on these pages here in the back. So that's what we're going to go over. So each month, first I want to go through just how many plushies did I make each month. And then we can go through how many pattern tests I did throughout the year, how many patterns I released throughout the year, and what was like my most made category of plushie made. And then maybe a few fun things like what was my biggest thing that I've made, or my most fun thing, or just different things like that. Just highlights for the year. So this one's just going to be a fun one, a fun chatty one. So in January, I made 65 individual plushies. So that was the start of the year. February, I ramped things up a notch, kind of getting ready to start doing a few markets, and I made 115 plushies in February. March was 71, so just kind of keeping the momentum there. April, 61. After April, I slowed down a little bit. I had kind of built my inventory up at that point. And so I just did a little bit to like maintain. I did some pattern tests and I did some custom orders. But I wasn't marketing as much in the summer, and I'd already built my inventory up pretty high at that point. So May, I made 38. June, I made 31. July, I made 39. Then we start hitting the fall again. So I knew I was going to head back into market season, and I started ramping things up again to make sure I had the inventory I needed for fall market season. So August, I made 79 items. September, I made 108 items. October, I slowed down a little bit again. I was mostly marketing at that point, so I didn't have as much time for making because I was going to a lot of markets. I think I did. I know I had 2 back-to-back pumpkin patch markets in October that were each 2 days. Plus there were a couple others. I think I had like 6 or 7 like days of markets in October. So I made 41 plushies in October, 63 in November, and December I made a whopping grand total of 5 plushies. I have done almost nothing for December. I honestly have been feeling a little bit of burnout. And after the year leading up to that, I think you can probably see why. And I got that 3D printer at the end of November. So I've been doing a lot more with the 3D printer and having a lot of fun with it. And it's just given me a little bit of a different creative outlet that didn't revolve around crochet. I'm still crocheting. And I'm kind of changing gears as to what I'm going to crochet, because the next market I will have is the Toy Fest in March. So I've talked about this a little bit, but that's going to be a lot of like video game referenced things and anime and things like that. Fantasy, lots of dragons, fun things like that, which I love to make. Those are some of my favorite things to make anyway. But I am taking a bit of a pause on like the stuff I would normally really crank out for market prep and moving into other things. And I'm trying to come up with different ways for that 3D printer to fit in with it and to do things that are like really, really cool that will coincide with the crochet. So I can knit it all together. So it's not like I have two completely separate crafts. Because anybody who markets, if you keep to a niche, if you keep to a niche in your marketing, things tend to go better than if you just are all over the place with stuff everywhere. So that was my monthly totals. Let's see. So February obviously was the highest with 115, and September was a close second with 108. The total plushies made for the entire year, 716. That's a lot. That's when I averaged it out. That's about 2 a day. So that's a lot. And that would be if I worked like every single day, did not take any days off. Average of 2 a day for the year. I didn't realize I'd done quite that much. I mean, I knew I'd been crocheting a lot, but I didn't realize I'd done quite that much. It was fun though. I keep saying I'm sorry. I'm also talking a little too fast, I think. So I do know that there are probably some that didn't quite make it to the list. I did my best to mark down all throughout the book everything that I made every day, but I know I missed some. And I went back through my photos and tried to mark down all of those as best I could, but there's probably some I forgot to take photos of. So this number is probably not completely accurate, but it's pretty darn close. Next year, I think I will do a little bit better keeping track of this. I may make myself like an Excel spreadsheet or something that I can keep on Google Drive so I can access it from my phone. And that way I'm not dependent on it being in a physical book that I might not always have with me. I think that might have been part of my problem. Because like if I make something at a market, I don't have my book with me to write it down. And if I don't remember to write it down when I get home, well, I'm not going to remember. So I might do something like that. I'm also kind of brainstorming what other things I might want to keep track of through the year that might be fun to just kind of be able to look back at the end of the year and be like, this is what I've done. I know a lot of people keep track of like how many skeins of yarn they've used and like how much stuffing they've used. And for me, I could also add in maybe how many reels of 3D printer filament I've gone through. So different ideas like that I'm kind of bouncing around. Have any of those numbers or things that y'all think are fun that you would want to hear about? Let me know in the comments here. I'm also bouncing around ideas for videos for next year. So if you have ideas for fun videos you'd like to see, feel free to throw those in the comments as well. I think I probably will at some point do like a question and answer video. So if y'all want to be thinking of any questions you have for me and start throwing those in the comments, I'll start collecting them. And I'll probably put out a call for those kind of comments every once in a while through my Instagram or whatever, so I can get a little bit of a collection of them so we can make a nice video out of it. Okay, so that was total plushies made. So how many of those then were pattern tests? Because I did a lot of pattern testing throughout the year. And I will tell you, I did a total of 68 pattern tests. So of those 716 plushies, 68 of them were pattern tests that I did. And I actually wrote out a list of all of the pattern tests. A lot of them were by the same designers. I did a lot of pattern tests for Crochet by Jenna. I'm in her Patreon, and a lot of times she'll open up some of those pattern tests to all of her Patreons, and we all get to test it. It's no longer a secret. She's announced that she is putting out a book that is coming out very, very shortly. I have it on pre-order, and I'm very excited about it. But all of her Patreons that signed up specifically for that book also got to test, I think it was like 33 patterns from the book. So I was part of all of those pattern tests. And did I list those in here? I think I did. I think I listed those in here. Yeah, book patterns. So I tested all of those, and I've tested a bunch of her stuff that she's released to her Patreon. So a lot of these pattern tests were Crochet by Jenna, but I did several other pattern tests throughout the year too. So I did Jenna's macaron turtle. I did Jenna's mallard patterns from the beginning of the year. They're kind of like a laying down, flying bird. Um, yeah, and I did the mallard color way. She has it also to where you can make it in like a chick or a flamingo or a goose, I think was one of the color palettes. So lots of really cute things. One of them might have been like a rooster. So like a yellow chick and then like a more adult chicken. I did a pattern test for the Pretty Patties by plushc.therapy on Instagram. That one was kind of fun. My daughter loves SpongeBob, so I was excited to do that one, and I wound up gifting that one to her when it was done. I made her a little pink Pretty Patty because pink is her favorite color. I did the baby owl for Not Your Mama's Shop. That's Kara on Instagram. She's a friend of mine, and she's also in the Crochet by Jenna Patreon. So we talk a lot on Discord and stuff. And I had a really fun time doing her pattern test for this baby owl. It was kind of funny because in the Discord chat, while we were talking about those of us who were testing, were talking about the test, and I mentioned that I was going to use fur yarn. Her initial response was, "You're gonna ruin my pattern. What are you doing?" And it turned out really cute. So I'm glad that my craziness worked out in that one. The next pattern test I have listed here now. These I think are mostly in order, but they may not be completely. Was Bluey and Bingo. I think it was Blue and Orange Puppy is what the pattern is actually called, by Classy Critters Crochet. Classy and Critters with a K Crochet on Instagram. And that one was really cute. I really liked that one. It was a more of a heavy sewing one than the Bluey pattern I tend to use now. I do color changes with the Bluey pattern that I use now, but I liked that one. And it came out a good size. I tested a mini axolotl pattern for Yarnaholic Sociopath, and then took that pattern and made a couple of changes, and it made it look like a dragon, and she liked what I did with her axolotl so much that she then took that inspiration and refined it and updated it and did some more cool things and turned it into a really cool looking little mini dragon. And then I got to also test the mini dragon for that one. So that was 2 pattern tests in a row that I did for Yarnaholic Sociopath on Instagram. So mini axolotl, mini dragon. I still really love those, and they're great for like little claw machines or little mystery tags or something like that. Like they're really fast makes, all of her little mini patterns that are free on Instagram. Back to Crochet by Jenna, I tested her No Sew Dragon pattern, which you've seen all over YouTube. I know you, because people have been making it like crazy. It is a fantastic pattern. I love that pattern. I did her unicorn, Crochet by Jenna's splooting unicorn. That's what it is. It's like laying down with both of its legs out like this. I actually did 2 of those. I did one in blanket yarn that turned out to be like this big, and I made that one the prize in my 1K giveaway for when my Instagram hit 1,000 followers. And then I did a smaller one in baby bear yarn, I think it was, and it turned out about this big. And it kind of hung out at my markets for a while, but it did finally sell, so I'm glad it's gone to its new home. Then I did a pattern test for Foxy Hook Creations, and it was the Virtual Hamster Pal is what it's called, but it's based on the Tamagotchi character. Like when you do really, really well with your Tamagotchi, for those of you who remember those, and you got this cute like hamster guy with a blue, it's like a yellow hamster with like a blue hat with baubles. So yeah, I tested that one, and that was fun. Yarnaholic Sociopath came out with a mini scorpion pattern that I pattern tested for her, and my son loved those, so I had to make him like 3 of them. Back to Crochet by Jenna, I did her owl pattern. So this was 2 owl patterns for the year. I honestly couldn't tell you which one I like better. They're both so cute. I think Not Your Mama's Shop one turned out chunkier than Jenna's. So Not Your Mama's Shop one is almost more like a squishmallow shape, and Jenna's was a little bit slimmer, not a lot, because plushy owls are pretty chunky. Then I did the Starfish by Hooks and Healers on Instagram and YouTube. Annie. Her name is Annie. And that was a fun one. That one, she has this really cool way of putting like the little suction cups on one side with bobble stitches. And I managed to do one of the legs backwards and had one leg with bobble stitches on the wrong side, but it was a really fun pattern. Then I did 2 more pattern tests for Foxy Hook Creations and my friend Kelsey. She did a Fuecoco pattern, which is the Pokemon, and it's fantastic. It's absolutely gorgeous. I did a pink shiny version of her Fuecoco, and I also gifted that one to my daughter because that was her favorite Pokemon of the newest game. So that was her Christmas present this year. And then I did her Narwhal pattern. Nelly? I think it's called Nelly the Narwhal. And it is so adorable, y'all. That is the cutest narwhal pattern, especially if you use like great big like 30 millimeter sinker eyes. Like it's so chibi and cute and it's amazing. And it's so customizable with different colors, and you can put a belly patch on it or leave it a solid color. And some of the pattern testers were making it look like ice cream, like spilled ice cream with an ice cream cone as the horn. And I mean, it was just cute. It was so cute. For Not Your Mama's Shop, I did 2 more pattern tests. 3 really. I did her Fruit Dragons pattern test. So I tested, she had 7 of them, I think, altogether. And I tested 2 of the ones from the bundle. But it's not a bundle, they're each separate. But I tested 2 of the fruit themed dragons. And very similar to, I'm not going to say similar. They're not similar, but they have a lot of the same pros as the Crochet by Jenna No-Sew Dragon. There is a little bit of sewing, not a whole lot, but it just runs smoothly from like head to tail. And the way she did the ears were very unique, and I really appreciated that. And each fruit dragon has like a slightly different wing style, and they're very customizable like the Jenna ones are. I would say more customizable actually than the Jenna dragons. And they're in about the same amount of time to work up, about an hour for each pattern, I think. So really good for markets. And then the other one I did for Not Your Mama's Shop was her chunky Triceratops pattern, which is super cute. It's reminiscent of like a loaf cat, so it's like a loaf dinosaur. And then it has, the frill and then the baubles for the nose. It's so cute. It's so cute. I loved that one. Then I did crochet crafting. So crow like the bird, Shay crafting on Instagram. I did her Shinx Pokemon pattern. It's not called Shinx. It's a Edison. It's Edison is what it is. Edison the loaf something. But it's reminiscent of the Pokemon Shinx, and it's like a loaf version of Shinx, and it's so cute and chubby and wonderful. And the one I made for the pattern test sold almost immediately. It was like a big hit at what was that called? The MartCon show that I did. It was sort of like a miniature Comic-Con kind of thing. Then for Poggy's Place, y'all have heard me talk about Poggy's Place because I'm a big fan of Poggy's Place. She came out with the Burrow Buddies pattern this year, pattern pack. And it's like mice and beaver and a possum and toad and a mole and a hamster, I think is what's all in there. And I was on the mice team. I got to test the 2 versions of mouse pattern. There's one that's like standing on all fours and one that's sort of sitting up like this. But I also made several of the other patterns from the pattern pack because we got access to the whole pack. So cute. I can't stop recommending her patterns. They're amazing. Her patterns are so cool. And I just saw her post on Instagram recently that there's another Little Critters pack coming out soon that I'm very excited for. Then Crochet by Jenna, I did her Dylan Dino pattern test, and that's like the traditional like kind of sitting up T-Rex style dino with the spikes down his back. But it's different because it actually sits up on its own. The way the feet are attached and the tail, it like tripods and it'll sit on the table, and it's so flippin' adorable. And it hasn't sold yet because I did make it really big. I used burnout blanket and it came out like this tall. So I put a little bit of a higher price point on it. So I'm not surprised that it hasn't sold yet, but that's okay. It's gotten a ton of attention at the shows. Kids run up to it and grab it, and they're so excited to see it. So really great pattern, that one. Then I did another one for Fox and Faye Crochet. I actually did several for her this year. Emily. So I did her Bulby and Ivy pattern, which is Bulbasaur, Ivysaur. I only did the Bulbasaur version of it because I was starting to get a little bit swamped at this point in the year and I didn't have time to do both. But it's just beautifully done. All of her patterns really are just beautifully done. You know exactly what it is you're looking at. Then I did her Mew pattern test. Again, beautiful. I think I did Mew first and then the Bulbasaur one. Beautifully done. And I did all of these in burnout blankets, so they all turned out pretty big, and they're really statement pieces, and they're gorgeous. Then I did her Rudy Redcap pattern, which, oh my gosh, if y'all haven't seen this pattern yet, go look this up. It is so cute and so customizable. So it's like, this little gnome fellow, and I used fur yarn to give him very fluffy eyebrows and a mustache, and he just looks like this grumpy old guy. And the hat is incredible, the way it flops and flows in the back. And then as we were all chatting in the group chat about the different ways that you could customize this and all the cool things you could do with this, she got inspired to do a link modification for it. So I think it's called the Forest Adventurer mod, and it's included with the pattern, but it's perfect, y'all. It's absolutely perfect to make a link. So I immediately made link as well. So I've done this pattern test twice now, and it's, oh gosh, you guys got to get it. It's so good. It's so good. And so customizable. Like, I could see how you could easily take this pattern and not only make link, but you could also add a little bit of a skirt detail and change the colors up a little bit, and you've got Zelda. Or you could what were some of the other ideas we were tossing around? Dobby. You could do Dobby pretty easily with this pattern. You would just need, like, it's got big elf ears, so you would just need to like do a longer nose and like a tea towel for him to wear instead of the outfit, which would be really simple because it's already a tunic with a belt. So without the belt, it just looks like a tea towel. So that's something you could do with it. I mean, there's just so many different ideas with this base doll pattern. It's just really, really good. It's so good. Then I did a Crochet Me Zaddy pattern test for his itty bitty jellyfish. And that one I did, it was around Christmas time, pretty close to, it was in November, I think. So that one I did in red and white and made it look like a piece of peppermint candy. And that turned out really cute. It sold at my very next market. I did another Fox and Faye pattern test, the Bee Volutions, which is a free pattern she's released on her Instagram. So cute. So cute. We were each assigned one of the evolutions. I got Umbreon or Umbreon, which I loved. And then I went, but we had access to all the others as well. So I just went back and made them all. So it's like 8 of them all told, and I made all of them. They're so cute, and they're really cute as they are, but they're also really cute if you leave off the wings, and then they just look like this little like tiny chubby loaf version of themselves. Very cute. So very and a little bit of a customizable option for you there, and that's a free pattern on her Instagram. So y'all should go check it out. Then I did the Grumpy Mushroom for Crafter Me Angeli on Instagram. I think I finally said that right. I think I've talked about this like in 3 different videos and never said it right. So it looks like a Goomba from Super Mario. Adorable. Pretty sure it's also a free pattern on her Instagram. I'm pretty sure. The shaping is perfect. I mean, it just couldn't be any more perfect. It's no-sew. It works up quick, and it's just adorable. I just loved it so much. And I will be making more for sure. Then I did some more for Crochet by Jenna. She came out with a sitting bird pattern that was kind of reminiscent of like a rubber duck shape, but she did it with a bunch of different colors. So you could do, she had a turkey, she had a duck, She had, and then like a mallard color, a chicken color, I think. Did she do a peacock? I don't remember if Jenna did a peacock or if one of the testers modded it into a peacock. It might have been one of the testers modding it into a peacock. But an ingenious way to do it. You work from the head down into the body, but I mean, it has that classic rubber duck shape. No sew. Well, you might have sewed the beak on. Now I can't remember. I think if you sew anything on, it's just the beak, and it's a simple pattern or a simple, sleek kind of design, and it just turned out great. It turned out really great. I actually turned mine into a Beetlejuice duck. I did it black and white and gave it crazy green hair and a purple beak and turned it into Beetlejuice. Then I did her reindeer pattern. It's a reindeer or a snowman is her new one. Yeah. So there's options in the pattern to do both. And I did the reindeer version and she turned out beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. And then there's also an accessory in there that you can make a scarf to go with either one. I did make the scarf for the reindeer and it just, yeah, it's beautiful. And it's worked from the bottom up. The only thing you sew on is the antlers, I think. I think the ears were crocheted in, the arms are crocheted in. The antlers have to be sewn on. But yeah, it's really low sew. And it just goes smoothly on the hook. Then I did her Stegosaurus pattern. I think that's the last pattern test I did for the year. I have two more on my list here, but they came earlier in the year. But the last one I did in the year was Crochet by Jenna's Stegosaurus pattern. I think that's my favorite pattern that I've tested this year. It turned out so adorable. I made it for my nephew's Christmas present. And I had kind of a happy accident with it where I ran out of the yarn color that I was originally using. It was meant to be, I did it in Posh, and it was that glow warm, like neon green kind of color. And then I was using the blueberry smoothie, I think, for the spikes. And that was going to be the color palette. Well, I ran out of the green. I got the body done, but I didn't get the tail done, and I only got part of the head done, and I ran completely out of the green. And as I've told Joe before, I don't have a Joann's by me anymore. The closest Joann's is over an hour away. It's almost like 2.5 hours away. It's a long drive. So there was no way I was going to be able to try and get more of this yarn in time to give my nephew his present for Christmas. So I just had to pinch hit, and I wound up finishing the head off in the blue and then also doing the tail in the blue. And I did all the spikes in different rainbow colors, and I put a little patch on his butt, so now he looks like a patchwork dino, and I think it turned out even cuter than my original idea. So then the other pattern tests that I did for the year were the book patterns that I tested for Jenna. And I'm not going to tell you what they are, obviously, because they're all in the book, and you have to wait till the book comes out. But I tested 30 of them. Like, that was a lot. It was a lot. And that was more towards the beginning of the year, and over the summer when I wasn't crocheting as much for markets. So I had a little bit more time for pattern testing. But I did my best to test as many of them as I possibly could. There were only maybe 3 or 4 that I wasn't able to get to. But that was a lot of fun. It was so much fun to be a part of that process. And I can't wait for that book to come out so I can get my copy. And then her flower turtles, which came out earlier in the year, maybe in March, I want to say. And it's a lily and an iris, and they're both in the same pattern. And those turned out beautifully. All of her patterns do, really, but those were really, really pretty. I still think the bow and heart turtle that she released way back in January is my favorite of her turtle patterns, but this flower one is a pretty close second for me. So that was my 68 pattern test for the year. So here's another fun number. How many patterns did I release this year? Because I actually worked a lot on releasing new patterns. And not just new patterns, but I also took a couple of my older patterns that I had released last year towards the end of the year and updated them and then re-released them with better pictures and better instructions. And some of them I actually changed the actual pattern. So I released 10 patterns this year. I released my first ever Lovey pattern, which was Anchor the Shark, and he's a hammerhead shark Lovey, knotted Lovey. I'm so proud of that pattern. That one is so weird. Like, I basically dreamt I was making it, and when I woke up that morning, I was like, I gotta get this made. I need this on the hook so that I can, not forget. So I dreamed it, woke up that morning, made it, and wrote it out, and then went to a couple of friends to get it pattern tested, and didn't have to make very many changes to the pattern as I had thought it up, and it turned out really, really great. I'm so proud of that pattern. My Percy possum pattern, that was one of the ones I kind of revamped a little bit. I had made it last year out of a need to have a pattern, a possum that was just more than just a tube. I wanted it to have a little bit of shaping to the face. And I wanted it to have the weird toes, and like there were several things that I wanted that I wasn't getting from other patterns, so I just came up with my own pattern. But it was a little bit, I want to say, kind of confusing at parts, so I kind of cleaned up the stitch count a little bit and went through and also the first way I made it was not no-sew, so I went back and made it no-sew. So it is now a completely no-sew pattern. I came out with a mini bluey pattern that was more towards the end of the year. And that one is released now on my Etsy. And it's like a little pocket bluey about this big. That one's been extremely popular at markets. I have sold out every time I take them. I've made a mini scrump pattern. That one was out of a request for a custom order. And it turned out so great that I wrote it down and I made some more. So I have a mini scrump pattern now, and I am really pleased with how it turned out. My Olivia octopus pattern was another one that I came out with last year and then revised this year. I changed up the way you do the tentacles, and I kind of cleaned up the stitch count on that one as well. Mini Oddish, I came out at the very end of last year, but didn't release it till this year. So it was like released in January. So I wrote it and created it in December of last year and then released it January this year. So it was kind of a turn of the year pattern. My Sittin' Pretty Chicken was one that I had made last year. And then this year I went back and changed almost all of it. I liked the way I had made it last year, but it was not no-sew. And also, I just felt like it needed an update. So I went through and I did a completely different comb. I added little feathery frills to the wings. I added a tail. It didn't have a tail before. And I made it completely no-sew. And I like it so much better now. I'm so much happier with it now. Then I came out with my Toby the Cow pattern. He's a Highland cow. And I had played with the idea of doing a dairy cow version, and I just never had the time. So there will probably still be a mod coming out, or maybe another pattern coming out for a dairy cow version of Toby at some point. But he's more like a splooting cow, and he's a no-sew. Completely no-sew. That was something I hadn't really seen other than as like, a little bitty, with like bobble stitches for the legs and just like a little critter version of a cow. I've not seen a bigger cow that was no-sew, and that's what I wanted to create with this guy. So that's what I did. And then I wrote a very simple pattern to make Soot Sprite keychain. And I'll have to check. I don't know if I've written the pattern. I've taken pictures for the pattern. I thought I released it free on my Instagram, but I need to look again and make sure it's actually posted, because I got super busy toward the end of this year, and I don't know for sure if I ever remembered to actually post it and like advertise it. So I'll have to look. But I wrote it. It's finished. It's ready to go. But it's a little Soot Sprite keychain, like from the Studio Ghibli movies, and it's just a free one. if it isn't already on my Instagram, it's going to be a free one just on my Instagram, because there's nothing really groundbreaking about it. It's just a ball with arms and legs. The only real, I guess, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. My brain just went blank. Like, just different thing about it is the way that I did the star decoration. Because if you see them in the Studio Ghibli movies, sometimes they have little stars like stuck in their soot fur, and sometimes they're carrying them. So I used star-shaped pony beads and strung them onto the yarn and crocheted them in. So you don't have to add the stars afterwards. You don't have to glue them on. You don't have to sew them on. It's all crocheted into the Soot Sprite itself. So it's a completely no-sew Soot Sprite. Great for markets. It works up in like 10 minutes. So that technique itself is the only thing that's really kind of different about this pattern. And I didn't feel that was really different enough from a ball with legs to make it like a paid pattern. So it's free on my Instagram. I probably will still post it for like $1 or something on my Etsy, just to cover the fees, and because you can't obviously post anything for free on Etsy. If you want to be able to print off a PDF of it, that would be the only reason for that. And then in collaboration with Yarnaholic Sociopath, we released a free Instagram pattern for a poison dart frog. So the inspiration for that one started with that mini axolotl that I tested for her, and then the dragon that was inspired from that axolotl. I was then inspired from the dragon to make a poison dart frog. So she took my pattern that I created from that, and we collabed on it. So it, was inspired by her pattern and refined by me. So that's a together one. So that's on both of our Instagram accounts, the Poison Dart Frog, free pattern there. And I really love that one. That one's my favorite frog pattern to use now, and it fits great in claw machines, and it's just really cute. So that was my patterns release this year. So this video is starting to get a little long. I hope that's okay with you guys. I'm going to try to stop it before it gets to an hour. I don't want it to get longer than an hour, but I did have a couple more things I wanted to talk about. So I went through and I listed out all the like categories of plushies and did hash marks. I went through all my book and did hash marks of how many I made of each of those categories. So I went back and then I just took my top 6. So top 6 most made things throughout the year. And I'll go from bottom to top. So in the bottom, tied for 5th, were Pokemon and chickens. I made 24 each, Pokemon and chickens. And this counts for all the different kinds of Pokemon, like the chubby ones from Aaron's Yarnimals, plus the realistic ones that I pattern tested. Chickens, same thing. All the different chickens that I did all throughout the year. No one particular pattern, just chickens as a category. The next one, coming in at 4th place, was dragons. I made 26 dragons this year, which is a lot. It's honestly like a lot of dragons because they take a long time to make. Most of the ones I made were like the Winnie pattern or the Posy pattern, Crochet by Jenna's pattern I did several times. The Fruit Dragon pattern by Not Your Mama's Shop I did a couple of times. I think any other dragon patterns I really worked on this year. I did a few different free Instagram ones and stuff like that. Just a lot of different. The Diddy Dex dragon pattern I did more towards the end of the year. Most of them took over an hour. I think the Diddy Dexes are the exception to that, where they take less than an hour, but almost all of them took more than an hour. So 26 of those for bigger patterns is pretty good. 3rd place goes to turtles, which this is not surprising. I'm honestly kind of surprised they weren't higher up on the list. I made 39 turtles throughout the year. 39. That's a lot of turtles. 2nd place, and this one hit me out of left field. I honestly had no idea I had made this many of these. 2nd place goes to bunnies at 40. I made 40 bunnies this year. Why was I so bunny crazy? I don't even remember being bunny crazy. There was never a point in time where I was like, man, I've been making a whole lot of bunnies. I mean, that's a lot of bunnies. And then number 1 again, a little bit surprising to me. I did not expect this at all. Number one most crocheted item this year was frogs. I made 45 frogs this year. That's a lot of frogs, y'all. That's a lot of frogs and a bunch of different ones, but they're all little. So that kind of makes it make a little bit more sense because I don't really do any big frogs. Probably the biggest frog I did all year was the one knotted lovey that I did by Mama Made Minis, her Tess of the Toad pattern. Everything else is little. So I guess that kind of makes sense because I did the leggy froggies, I did toads, I did the little poison dart frogs, like all the like little minis type. So I guess it sort of makes sense that I would make that many frogs, but geez, it just seems like a lot of frogs. And they were pretty popular because honestly, I think thinking back at my inventory, I'm pretty sure I've only got maybe one or two toads left from the Poggy's Place pattern pack. And they probably are only still there just because they kind of get buried in a lot of the other minis, and you have to dig through all the mini bins to find them. So that's a lot of frogs. That's a lot of frogs, y'all. So that's my numbers. That's my numbers for the year. For the recap of 2024, that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff. So let's just talk for a little bit, just fun things. So biggest project that I made this year in 2024 was Nessie. Nessie was definitely the largest thing I've made. I think that Spring Bunny came pretty close. If you remember my videos from back in March and April, I made this giant, like toddler sized rabbit, and that was the biggest until I made Nessie. Let me go get Nessie because I don't know if I've ever actually shown her in her full beauty in a video. I've showed pieces of her as I was making her, but I don't know if I ever showed off her fully completed form. So give me just a second. Okay, y'all ready for this? Because I don't know if you are. We're gonna have to do this in stages. This is Nessie. So I did the little eye detail like she always does in hers, and the big floppy ears, and neck, head, body, and her fins, and her tail down to the moon detail. And she's a little bit dusty, a little bit well loved because she lives in my bed, and I sleep with her, and I lay on her as my TV pillow. She makes a fantastic back support when I'm working and want to sit in bed and watch TV while I'm working or while I'm crocheting. So I can just I've got a wedge pillow that I sleep on, so I kind of just lay this part of her up on the wedge pillow, and it's nice and firm and very supportive for my lower back. And then I can wrap her head up around and rest my arm on her head, and she gives me a good arm rest. So she's very functional as well as being very cool, and she's just ginormous. So this is definitely the largest thing that I made in 2024. On the opposite end, the smallest thing that I made in 2024, I don't really do micro crochet. So I always use plushy yarn. So the smallest things are probably like keychains. I made a tiny banana, like this big. So it's probably the smallest thing. That's not as exciting, but there it is. Let's see. What was the thing I was most proud of making? Trying to think. I didn't make any of my toddler-sized turtles in 2024. Those were all 2023. I think the thing that I'm most proud of making was my pattern for Anchor the Shark. Yeah. It hasn't really sold as well as I would have hoped. My Sitting Pretty Chicken is definitely the one that has sold the best out of all my patterns. But that shark, that is the one that it came together, and it turned out exactly the way I wanted it. It looks exactly like I want it to. It is so recognizable. Everybody who sees it immediately knows it's a hammerhead shark. And I just loved how that turned out. So that's one I'm most proud of this year. Let's see. Some of the highlights for them from the year, big fun moments. Doing the LamarCon for, it was like a local convention. I mean, it was very small, but it was so fun. I really enjoyed doing that one. Other things that have been just kind of top highlight moments of the year. Reaching 1,000 followers on my Instagram was huge. That was so huge. I loved that. And, you know, fingers crossed that we'll hit another milestone in 2025. My YouTube channel has stayed steady. It hasn't really boomed, but that's okay. It's been steady and it hasn't died. So we're doing good with YouTube. I'm proud of that. Let's see what else. Big moments. My 3D printer right now is one of the most fun things I'm doing. Really enjoying that. Oh, let me show you. I actually started something new just yesterday. So y'all are going to start seeing these probably on my Etsy soon. But they're these gorgeous books. I mean, right? Isn't that beautiful? This is the small version. I'm going to print another one that's about 8 inches, so it's a little bit bigger. But this is not just a book. No siree. This is a storage tray. And you can put just about anything in it. The bigger one will actually be big enough to hold crochet hooks. But all of these smaller ones, and I've got multiple trays that have different dividers in them. These smaller ones will be perfect for little notions, your needles and your stitch markers, scissors can all fit in there. Or if you want something on your desk that just sits on your desk like this, you can keep your Post-it notes and your paper clips and whatever else sort of office related stuff you want to keep. And then when you're ready to sit down and work and do stuff and you need it, you can just open up your tray and you have it right there. Keep it all organized and neat. What they were, like the original idea they were intended for, is also a great option because they're really, with the thought of like playing D&D, you could have a whole dice set in here. I've got trays that would fit a mini and a set of dice and a deck of cards. So if you have cards that go with your character, yeah. And then, like I said, the bigger one will be able to fit crochet hooks. So if you want something really cool to organize your hooks in, and it'll be in this kind of a tray, you'll be able to fit a whole set of crochet hooks in there, and they'll be nice and neatly organized and in this magical tome. I printed the dragon one first because it was my favorite, but I've got like over 20 different designs of cover that I can go with. So that's exciting. And just, you know, trying to come up with lots of fun things that I can do with this 3D printer that that'll fit with the crochet world. And I think it'll be great. I'm looking forward to it. So that was another big highlight of the year. I got into, I haven't done the show yet, but getting into it was another highlight of the year. Getting into the Toy Fest, because it looks like it's gonna be so cool. So that was an exciting moment this year. On a personal level, let's see, exciting things that might have happened. It's been such a crazy year. Like I feel like it's flown by so fast. But, you know, in home and personal life, nothing really crazy, wacky has happened. We've trucked along. It's been great. I've been working on my third board game campaign. I write. That's one of the other things I do is I write. I've written the campaigns for the 2 previous board games in this series. So the third one is going to be coming out, and I'm writing the third campaign. And that's a lot of fun. That's a highlight. I'm really enjoying that. That's really all I can think of off the top of my head. I don't prepare a script for these things, so y'all know I'm just going off the cuff here. But it's right at 50 minutes now, so it's been almost an hour. So I'm gonna wrap it up. Next video is coming out. I'm gonna do a 2025 goals video. So in that one, we'll look over the goals that I set for this year. Did I make them? Did I not? And then setting goals for next year and laying out, what I plan to do to achieve those. So look out for that one. If I get a YouTube recap or rewind thing, I may make a video out of that. I got one last year, so I think I should get one this year. So we'll do one of those. That could be fun. That'll probably be a shorter one, just a little quick recap of the year in YouTube world, and maybe a question and answer video coming out, and figuring out, kind of what I want the year to look like in my YouTube channel, what kind of video content I want to come out with. It's going to be a little bit different next year, I think, because I won't have as many markets to prep for. I'm focusing on bigger markets, and less of them. So rather than a whole bunch of little local ones, a few really big ones. So I'll be probably spending months prepping for one market rather than a week at a time prepping for a different market. And then, so there won't be as many market recaps. There'll be plenty of market prep, but not as many market recaps. And hopefully I'll be able to boost up my safety eyes a little bit more. So you may start seeing some more of that content. That was the other thing that I did this year that was fun, was I started in the safety eyes and I introduced the exclusive Eye of the Month sets, or set of the month, or however you want to say it. And so the next one of those is going to be coming out soon. Bedtime Stories is about to go by. It's only got a couple of days left and it's going by, and I've already got plans for what January's is going to be. And just to give you a hint, it's all based around one of my favorite book series, which the third one is coming out in January. I'm sure you can figure that out from there, but that's what it's going to be based on. So keep an eye out for that. I'm very excited about it, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.